All right, guys, and then we got the hot list here. Um, we got these three topics left. It is high school, favorite high school logo, best field, and then our favorite game attended. So we'll see what we get this week. We are gonna go with favorite game attended. So I feel like this was potentially one of the harder ones for us to figure out here, but I think I have my game. So if you guys need a minute, I can just go ahead. Yeah. All right. So I was actually when we interviewed Coach Short at Normal Community this past weekend, we were talking about this game, and I told him it was one of my favorites that I've been to. It was O'Fallon versus Community, and I believe the sectional championship game ended up being Normal Community won 10-8, but it was just so back and forth throughout the game. High scoring game, obviously, but Max Heineman, he's their catcher. He's a 2026 going to Illinois Chicago. Had like 4 hits or 5 hits in the game, 2 doubles, a homer. Really just kind of carried them offensively, especially in big moments too. But it was just a really good environment. 2 really good baseball teams in O'Fallon and Normal Community last year. Just kind of battling back and forth in a playoff game to advance this to the Supers. And yeah, it was just probably my favorite game that I've been to. Definitely last year, but potentially one of my favorites the past few years since I've been doing this.
Yeah, Gav, I'm gonna go with an O'Fallon game as well. I went to O'Fallon versus Father McGivney back in May, and that was also another back and forth battle between 2 top 25 teams. McGivney was leading by 1 heading into the bottom of the 6th, and then O'Fallon put up 2 big hits to take the lead and ultimately win the game. It was when one team would score, the other would respond. It was a very fun game to watch, and it was really interesting on the mound as well as freshman Will Vanderhayden and junior Isaac Windler at the time. They were both duking it out on the mound, so that was a really good, fun game to watch on my end.
I'm going to take a game that a few of us on here were actually at last year. That was the 4A state semifinal game between McHenry and Brother Rice. Brother Rice was really our number 1 team. It what felt like all spring long last year. They had an absolutely outstanding record. They were like 34-5 for the entire year. But coming into that game, like Brother Rice probably had the best lineup in the state. Pound for pound, the amount of talent 1 through 9 in that lineup was honestly insane for a high school team. And then on the other side, they were facing Brandon Shannon from McHenry, who left McHenry as, arguably maybe the best pitcher in program history, who's now at Louisville and doing big things down there. But the atmosphere was insane. It was like number 1, number 2 is what it felt like. Seed-wise, I think it was 1 versus 4 or whatever. I don't know how all that works. But regardless, this game was insane. Brandon Shannon actually got into a little bit of trouble early, if I remember correctly, but settled down and just started mowing some guys down. And it was an incredible game because honestly, McHenry all year, like their offense wasn't, they weren't world beaters on offense by any means, but they always did enough to win. And that's exactly what happened in this game. McHenry was able to scratch a few runs across, and it was just enough because they had Brandon Shannon on the mound. So for me, it was probably the best overall game, just atmosphere, talent that was on the field, stakes that I've seen in the 2 years I've been doing this.
I can hop in here. Man, there's a lot of different ways I could go. Lincoln Way West, Lincoln Way East last year was obviously one of the biggest, most anticipated games ever, but I'm actually not going to go that route because I'm going to go off the game that I felt the most fired up sitting in my car on the way home from. Just like, wow, that was awesome. And that is when Downers Grove North walked off Hinsdale Central in the regional championship to send them to sectionals. Jimmy Janicki hit a walk-off home run. It was a really chippy game. All, like, the parent sections were kind of going at it. So it was, like, just the way it ended, like, you couldn't have drawn it up any better. Like, that's how, like, you practice in the yard as a kid, like, in wiffle ball. It's, like, what you dream about. But, man, I was just, like, in my car. There's, like, no way that happened. Like, that was insane. And cherry on top, it was at the school my fiance teaches at, so that was kind of cool as well. But now that's one of the first ones that comes to mind. Just like just the way that was like, I think maybe my only true like walk-off home run that I've seen in person, and in my time doing this, and it was just electric. That was one of the more electric reactions. Like the video on Twitter, I'm watching it now. Like just the pure emotion is some of the top that I've seen in my time doing this.
All right. So when we were discussing, best game you've ever been to or whatever, favorite game attended, I was immediately thinking, hey, it was a game this year. But after talking about it and guys kind of said, hey, we could choose any game, I had to go back into the archives. Because there have been a lot of games I've been to, and one does stick out. And it was the 2019. Okay, so we're going back 6 years here. The 2019 4A Super Sectional between Edwardsville and Marist. The game took place at Lincoln Land Community College. Edwardsville ended up beating Marist 6-5. I had to go back to read the game story a little bit. It was a back and forth affair. I remember Drake Westcott hitting a bomb to center field in the first inning with nobody on. For Edwardsville to kind of kickstart things. And then at the end of the game, Edwardsville gets a couple clutch hits. I know Josh Ohl, he ended up playing. He was their shortstop, ended up playing at SIU Edwardsville. The game was tied at 4. Barreled a ball to right field to give them the 5-4 lead, break it open in the top of the 7th. They ended up getting another run to go up 6-4 going into the bottom of the 7th. And then Marist ends up loading the bases with nobody out. Edwardsville turns a double play, so Marist cuts the lead to 6-5, and Justin Janis steps up to the plate for Marist. He was 4 for 4 on the day going into that at bat. He ends up flying out to give Edwardsville the 6-5 win and advance to state. Edwardsville ends up winning state that year, and the reason that I think this game just is so stuck in my head is, first off, the atmosphere was great. But it was, to me, the 2 best teams in the state that year going at it. A lot of times you do get that in the super sectional. You get 2 of the best teams in the state. But to me, that was the best Marist roster I had ever seen. Jack Brannigan was on that team. He's in pro ball now, went to Notre Dame. Kendall Ewell was on that team. Played at a couple different schools, played some pro ball. Jason Hodges was a highly touted prospect on that team as well. And there's others I'm missing from Marist, but Edwardsville was loaded. Matthew Boyer started the game on the mound. He went to St. Louis, had a really good career there as well. But just an unbelievable matchup between 2 really good teams and 2 really good coaches. And that 7th inning and the drama and Edwardsville turning the double play, getting Justin Janis. Justin Janis, by the way, ends up, going to Illinois, having a really good career there, and he's playing pro ball as well. So there's just a number of pro prospects on that field, a number of high-level performances going on in that game, too. I remember Kendall Ewell, taking a breaking ball and just hammering it back up to center, right up the middle, back up into center field for Marist as well. But reading that story brought back a lot of good memories. There's probably more to touch on there, but I'm sure Coach Sefcik remembers that game, and I'm sure Coach Funkhauser does as well. So that's the one I'm going with, Gavin.
Yeah, and then I'd be remiss also if I didn't mention this game as one of my favorites that I've been to. Really, just because it's my alma mater for high school. Henry Senachwa and the Mallards making it to 1A state back in 2022, I believe it was, maybe 2023. I think it was 2023 at Peoria. It was the first time that Henry's made it to state for baseball and really anything, honestly. We've made it for certain sports, I think, back in, the 60s or 70s, but not in recent years. So just getting to be at that game and have this job and get to cover it was really cool and an awesome experience. They didn't end up winning, but they got second, but still just a really cool game and atmosphere to be at. A ton of people from Henry were at that game. Kind of felt like the whole town made their way down to Peoria for that. So that was definitely one of my favorites and a good memory to have.